The Galactic Council chamber thrummed with energy, representatives from every corner of the universe murmuring in curiosity and veiled derision as they eyed the lone human diplomat standing in their midst. The council's speaker's voice reverberated through the grand hall, commanding silence. "This assembly convenes today," the speaker announced, "to address humanity's recent disturbances in the Xylathian sector. Unexplained anomalies in that star system bear the signature of human interference." His words dripped with condescension, and an almost mocking smile tugged at the edges of his mouth. "You have tested our patience, human." The diplomat remained silent, gaze steady, unfazed by the accusatory tone. Aliens of all shapes and sizes leaned forward, eager to see how the lone human would respond. The speaker continued, raising a webbed, translucent hand, a gesture as much of accusation as it was of dismissal. "You may be newcomers to our galaxy, but your actions suggest a reckless disregard for established protocol. Surely you understand the gravity of your actions?" For a brief moment, silence reigned. The human diplomat's calm expression betrayed no hint of emotion. A council member from a feline-like species let out a low growl, and a reptilian diplomat clicked their tongue in impatience. The speaker leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Do you deny humanity's interference in matters beyond its mandate?" Finally, the human diplomat looked up, and his voice, though measured and calm, cut through the murmur of the assembly. "You attacked our home?" A stunned silence blanketed the chamber, and the smug expressions faded from alien faces. The speaker recoiled, and a dozen pairs of eyes stared, wide with disbelief. Whispers broke out, confusion and shock flooding the room. The speaker, visibly taken aback, struggled to regain his composure. What nonsense is this?" The diplomat's voice remained unwavering, unyielding. "An unidentified fleet, traced to one of your member species, launched an attack on a human colony on the edge of our space. We tracked the wreckage, the technology, and the communications. The evidence points back to factions under your jurisdiction." Gasps rippled through the crowd as the diplomat activated a holographic display, projecting the remnants of the attacked colony, twisted metal strewn across barren landscapes, and fragments of alien technology, unmistakably linked to a council species. The display flickered, showing fragments of intercepted communications that were damning. "This cannot be," muttered one council member. Another alien, a spindly, gray-skinned creature, shifted uncomfortably, refusing to meet the diplomat's gaze. The speaker's confidence visibly cracked, and he looked away, pretending to scrutinize the hologram as if hoping to find an error in the human's evidence. The human let the silence simmer, giving the weight of the evidence time to settle. "This was not an attack on a territory. This was an attack on Earth's people, on humanity itself." His tone grew colder. "We are not here to dispute territorial matters. We are here because you crossed a line." The speaker, still grappling with the gravity of the revelation, forced himself to speak. "Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. A rogue faction, surely, one acting without the council's oversight." The diplomat's gaze sharpened, and the hint of controlled anger flickered in his eyes. "Rogue factions do not operate with council technology. They do not possess council-grade weapons and ships. Do not insult our intelligence." The reprimand was harsh and direct, with none of the diplomatic softness the council was accustomed to. It stung, and the room grew tense. "What do you want, human?" a council member asked, their tone uncharacteristically meek. The diplomat straightened, his expression unyielding. "I want recognition. Not just that you crossed a line, but that you know the significance of what you've done. Earth is not just a distant colony. Earth is home. To attack our home is to attack the heart of our people." He scanned the faces in the room, unrelenting. "I understand that to many of you, origin worlds are little more than where your species began, places easily left behind or forgotten. But to us, Earth is sacred. It is where our story begins, and it is not a territory we will let you dismiss or destroy." For a long moment, no one spoke. The council members looked at each other, unspoken fear and doubt shifting across their faces. Humanity, the upstart species they had once dismissed as barely relevant, was making its presence felt in ways they had not anticipated. The humans' words lingered, each one a weight that pressed down on the alien delegation with undeniable force. The human diplomat watched them, unflinching, awaiting their next words. The alien representatives finally looked away, each grappling with the reality that they had provoked a species that would not tolerate disrespect to their home. The council speaker, voice shaken but struggling for authority, cleared his throat, the once condescending tone all but vanished. The human diplomat merely waited, his gaze unwavering, his silence a statement in itself, carrying more gravity than words could. The silence was deafening as the human's words echoed through the council chamber. "You attacked our home?" For a long moment, the members of the Galactic Council could only stare, their faces contorted in shock and disbelief. The speaker's voice, usually full of authority, was now tinged with a stammer, as if grappling with the weight of the accusation. "I attacked your home? Surely, this must be a misunderstanding. The Council does not condone such actions. What you suggest is unprecedented." The human diplomat stood firm, eyes cold and unwavering. "There is no misunderstanding," he replied, his tone cutting through the murmurs that had erupted across the room. "The evidence is clear, and it leads directly back to your council. This wasn't a random incident or the work of some rogue faction acting on its own." His words hung in the air, each one a blow to the council's sense of superiority. A holographic projection flickered to life once more, displaying a series of intercepted communications, clearly showing coordination and orders. Dates, times, coordinates, all meticulously documented and implicating a council-linked faction in the attack on the human colony. As the recordings played, various council members shifted in their seats, some whispering nervously to their neighbors, others avoiding the gaze of the human altogether. The evidence was undeniable. The speaker tried to regain control, his voice rising with feigned confidence. "This council cannot possibly be held responsible for every faction within its jurisdiction. Many act independently. We cannot monitor every movement." He glanced around, hoping to find some support among the members, but the usual smug confidence had faded, replaced by unease. It was clear that the humans' evidence had caught them all off guard. The diplomat didn't flinch. "Your council has the resources and technology to maintain order across countless systems. Yet when it comes to Earth, when it comes to humanity, you seem unable to contain your factions?" His voice hardened, carrying an unmistakable edge. "If you cannot control your own members, perhaps the council itself is no longer fit to oversee peace in this galaxy." A collective intake of breath swept through the chamber. The implication was bold, even confrontational, and it left the council visibly unsettled. The human took a step forward, his presence commanding the attention of all. "Earth may be new to the galactic stage, but do not mistake our willingness to learn for weakness. We will not stand by while our people suffer at the hands of those who hide behind bureaucratic excuses. We came here seeking accountability, not platitudes." A representative from a shadowed corner, eyes gleaming, spoke up, her voice laced with skepticism. "And if we refuse this accountability you seek? What then, human? What can Earth possibly hope to do against the might of the Council?" The diplomat met her gaze, unyielding. "This isn't about Earth alone. It's about a principle that we will defend with everything we have. We're prepared to stand against any force that threatens our home. We have no desire for conflict, but we will not cower in the face of those who would see us erased. You believe yourselves superior, yet you fail to understand that we will defend Earth as if it were our very existence, because it is." A tense pause followed his words, a palpable shift in the energy of the room. The aliens, once certain of their own superiority, now saw something they hadn't anticipated, a species with not only the resolve to stand its ground but also the audacity to challenge them on their own terms. The speaker tried to compose himself, to steer the conversation back to safer territory. "Your passion is admirable, but you must realize that Earth's capabilities are limited. We have protected countless civilizations. This incident is surely not worth a war." The human's gaze grew sharper, and for the first time, a faint smile touched his lips. "Our capabilities may surprise you. And as for war, I suggest you consider carefully what would happen if Earth decided to retaliate. His hand moved, activating another projection. This time, it displayed several cloaked human warships positioned in stealth across strategic points near Council-aligned worlds. The Council members stiffened, some gasping, others whispering in disbelief. The diplomat continued, voice steady and unyielding. We have no interest in conflict. But know this, we will defend our home by any means necessary. We are not here to be intimidated or bullied into silence. Another representative, eyes narrowed with suspicion, muttered, Surely this is bluffing. Earth does not have the technology to. But his words trailed off as he stared at the clear evidence before him. The Council had been caught off guard, unprepared for humanity's resolve and capability. The human diplomat stepped back, allowing his words and actions to sink in. Our patience is not infinite. We came here seeking peace, understanding, and assurance that such attacks will not happen again. We're offering a chance for diplomacy. But if you choose to disregard our warning, then we will be left with no choice but to take matters into our own hands. The Council members exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that the human wasn't posturing. The Council had pushed, and humanity had pushed back, not with desperation but with a quiet, controlled fury that none of them had expected. The speaker's expression softened, a look of reluctant respect beginning to form. For the first time, the Council saw humanity not as a minor player in galactic affairs but as a force capable of defending its own. And with that, the room fell silent once again, the Council members fully understanding the implications of the human's declaration. The diplomat's gaze remained unflinching as he took in the chamber's silence, noting the looks of unease and dawning realization in the eyes of each Council member. He could tell they were beginning to understand, but that wasn't enough, not yet. He stepped forward once more, letting the weight of his presence settle on the Council. Understand this, he continued, his voice unwavering. Earth is not a distant outpost or a colony. Earth is our home. It's where our people, our culture, our history are rooted. You may think of your own origin worlds as relics, places left behind as your species expanded, but for us, Earth is everything. When you attacked our colony, you attacked the very heart of who we are. Several Council members averted their eyes, unwilling or unable to fully comprehend this attachment. A few shifted in discomfort, and the murmurs began again, uncertain and wary. The human took note of their reactions, knowing this lack of understanding was a weakness he could leverage. He knew they saw Earth as merely another planet among many, and that was their mistake. Perhaps you find it difficult to understand, he continued, his tone as steady as ever. But that only underscores how differently we view this. We aren't here to lay claim to vast territories or to spread ourselves thin across the stars. Our focus, our loyalty, our determination is bound to Earth. We will protect it at all costs. A Council member with scaled skin and slitted eyes leaned forward, speaking up with a trace of skepticism. Your words are bold, but even if Earth is sacred to you, can you truly expect to defend it against the might of the entire Council? What you're describing sounds more like a sentiment than a strategy. The diplomat's gaze sharpened, and his response was swift. Sentiment? He almost allowed a smirk to play on his lips but held it back, letting his words carry the weight instead. You see our attachment to Earth as weakness. We see it as strength. It's what drives us. It's what unites us. Every human, no matter where they are in the galaxy, feels the pull of Earth, and that connection makes us formidable in ways you clearly don't understand. He let the words sink in, watching as some Council members began to falter, the gravity of what he was saying finally reaching them. The Council speaker, once so confident and dismissive, now seemed almost weary, like someone confronted with a threat he hadn't prepared for. The diplomat's voice softened but lost none of its intensity. You may control vast empires, he said quietly. But what are they built on? Territories, resources, political alliances? What binds you all together? Nothing more than mutual interest. He allowed the silence to stretch, noting how uncomfortable they became. We, on the other hand, are bound by something far deeper. You attacked not a resource, not an asset, but our identity, our soul. Do you truly think we would let that pass? A ripple of unease passed through the council members. They were accustomed to power dynamics based on assets and strategy, not this kind of loyalty, this fierce attachment to a single place. The humans' words were beginning to open their eyes to a strength they hadn't considered, a strength rooted not in numbers or resources but in unity and purpose. The speaker, sensing the shifting mood, attempted one last deflection. Surely, there is a way to resolve this without threats. We are a council dedicated to peace, after all. Humanity has much to gain by working with us. The diplomat's gaze hardened, and he met the speaker's eyes with a piercing look. Peace? Is that what you call an unprovoked attack on innocent civilians? An act carried out under the protection of this very council? He paused, allowing the accusation to land with its full weight. Peace is not simply the absence of open conflict. Peace requires respect, accountability, and understanding. And until now, you have shown none of these toward Earth. He allowed a moment for his words to settle, watching as the council members began to look away, some unable to meet his gaze. The tension in the room was thick, their former bravado stripped away, replaced by an unsettling realization: humanity would not be so easily dismissed. Let me be clear, the diplomat continued, voice steady and resolute. We came here seeking an understanding, hoping for an acknowledgement of the wrong done to us. But make no mistake, if this council continues to turn a blind eye, we will act. We will defend our home, and we will hold accountable anyone who dares threaten it again. The room fell silent, the gravity of the situation finally dawning on the council. There was no more doubt, no more scoffing. For the first time, they understood that humanity was a force that would not yield, that Earth was not just another planet but a symbol of unity and resilience. The speaker shifted, clearly shaken, and for the first time, he seemed to regard the human diplomat with something approaching respect. It was in that silence that the diplomat let his final words settle, knowing they would echo long after he left. He had made Earth's stance clear, and now it was up to the council to decide whether they would honor it, or face the consequences. The silence that followed was thick, each council member grappling with the weight of the human's words. For the first time in ages, the council felt genuinely threatened, not by numbers or weaponry alone, but by a resolve they hadn't anticipated. The speaker's once confident posture now slumped, and he hesitated, casting a glance toward his fellow council members. The diplomat watched their reactions, reading the shock and uncertainty etched on their faces. He knew his message had finally struck at the core. But he remained silent, giving them space to process the reality that Earth was not something they could manipulate or dismiss. After a tense pause, the speaker cleared his throat, his tone a mixture of hesitation and something close to reluctant respect. Human diplomat. Perhaps we have misunderstood each other. This council was established to maintain peace across the galaxy, to ensure cooperation among diverse civilizations. Humanity's presence here, it challenges us in ways we did not expect. The diplomat kept his expression steady, though he could sense the shifting tone. Peace, he echoed, his voice firm, is not maintained through intimidation or by erasing the identities of those you deem beneath you. If this council truly stands for peace, it must acknowledge and respect what Earth means to us. We are not just another species to add to your roster. We are humanity, and we will not allow anyone to infringe upon our home. The speaker seemed to wrestle with his thoughts, his gaze flickering to his peers, each of whom avoided his eyes. He turned back to the diplomat, resignation evident in his tone. And if this council were to ensure that no such acts would be repeated in the future? Would humanity be open to finding a path forward? The diplomat's gaze didn't waver. Humanity has always sought to cooperate, to learn, to grow alongside other civilizations. We are not here for conquest or dominion. But we will never compromise on the safety of our home. We ask only that the Council upholds its own principles, protecting every world from unprovoked aggression, Earth included. The speaker nodded slowly, a flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. The once dismissive tone was gone, replaced by something that bordered on respect. He glanced around the chamber, noting the grave expressions on the faces of his peers. They, too, understood that humanity had proven itself, if not through brute force, then through an unwavering will. Then, the speaker began, voice measured. This council will pass a resolution. Earth shall be recognized as a protected world, and any act of aggression toward humanity will be treated as a violation of galactic peace. He hesitated, searching the human diplomat's face for a reaction, then added, in return, we ask for humanity's continued cooperation with the Council, so that together, we may prevent further misunderstandings. The diplomat inclined his head, a subtle nod of acknowledgement. Humanity has no interest in isolation or hostility. Cooperation is what we came here seeking. But let this serve as a reminder, we value peace, yet we will not hesitate to act if threatened. A wave of murmurs swept through the council chamber, many members nodding in agreement, some even casting the diplomat a look that bordered on admiration. For centuries, they had operated under the assumption that their authority was unquestionable, that any species brought into the council would comply without challenge. Humanity had shattered that assumption with a quiet, unyielding strength. The speaker took a deep breath, steadying himself. Very well. Let it be known that this council recognizes Earth as a home world to be safeguarded, and humanity as an equal force deserving of respect. His voice softened as he added, perhaps, in time, we will come to understand your attachment to your origin world. It is unlike anything we've encountered. The diplomat's gaze softened slightly, recognizing the attempt at understanding. Earth is more than a planet to us. It's where we began, where our history, culture, and essence are rooted. We may expand across the stars, but Earth will always be home. And that's something we'll defend with everything we have. The speaker nodded, a look of comprehension dawning in his eyes. Then it seems we all have something to learn from each other. This council values resilience, and today, you've shown us that humanity has more than earned its place among the stars. He glanced around at his fellow council members, each of whom nodded in silent agreement. The diplomat stood a little taller, acknowledging the words with a silent nod. Respect is all we've ever asked for. Thank you for hearing us. The speaker managed a slight smile, albeit a weary one, as he formally announced. This session is adjourned, with the Council's commitment to uphold peace and respect for all worlds, Earth included. As the diplomat turned to leave, he could feel the eyes of the Council members upon him, not with the dismissive disdain they'd once shown, but with a newfound respect, perhaps even curiosity. He had come here to represent humanity, to stand for Earth and its people, and he had succeeded in doing so without conceding an inch of their dignity or resolve. In the silence that followed his departure, the council members remained in contemplation, absorbing the reality that a young, primitive species had demanded their respect, and earned it. And from that day forward, Earth was no longer just another planet in the eyes of the galaxy. It was a home, defended fiercely, and a force to be reckoned with among the stars.